In this video, we are going to be working in the vocabulary section of our notebooks. We are also going to be using the text section. So if you recall, we annotated this first lesson, the nature of science, the method of science, and we're going to be using this annotated page and some vocabulary words to develop science vocabulary. One of the hardest things about science is the vocabulary. It's all the new words that you maybe have never heard before, or you haven't used them this way before. So you will need this page that you have annotated, and you will also need your vocabulary section. Let me just go back to the beginning here and I'll show you. Mine is the next to last section, so I'm going to go there. Now I have made some post-it note flashcards that I like to use. You could do this with index cards. You could do it with a piece of printer paper that you just fold into 4 equal parts and cut those out. You can just write the definitions in your notebook if you want to do that. I'm just a flashcard person, so I really like this method. Another thing you can do is to write the definition in your notebook. So you write the definition here, and then you can move your post-it notes around to match up the definition to the word that it goes with. However you want to do this. This is sort of a thing that varies by individual. But if you are using flashcards, you will need 10 of them. And they are these words plus 3 more. So we'll have scientific method, hypothesis, experiment, control, constant, independent variable, and dependent variable. And then scientific theories, scientific law, and the word science. So if you want to pause the video and make your cards, please do so, and then we'll do the definitions. Now, the first word in my annotated page is science. So I'm going to find that card. The word is science. Science has 2 syllables. We have sci, that's a long I, it says its name, sci, and then we have unce. And this final E there is silent. We don't hear that. This little symbol is called schwa. Now let me come down here, and this is not a card, but this is the schwa symbol. It looks like an upside down and backwards E. And it is pronounced schwa. And schwa is the sound. We encounter it quite a lot in English. Science. So that is a schwa vowel there. Science. It has 2 syllables. I would encourage you to practice clapping the syllables. What I mean by that is as I read the word science, I'm clapping my hands. For someone like me who is dyslexic, that was incredibly helpful with spelling and reading. As I learned to break down words into syllables, there was something about the contact of clapping my hands that really helped me to understand this process. Some people also tap their fingers, like tap your finger on the table. It's not as loud, but it's still that contact of breaking those syllables down. Get in a room by yourself, the room where you read out loud, and practice that clapping those syllables. It will help you understand how syllables break and how to spell and read better. It looks funny, but who cares? If it helps you, teach it to your children also. When they're learning to read, teach them to clap those syllables, and it will help. Okay, the definition of science, according to our text, is a process. So this is a thing. This is a noun. I'm going to put that over here on my card itself. A process is a thing that uses observation. Observation. An observation is what you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. And investigation. Investigation. That's a 5-syllable word. Investigation. To gain knowledge about events in nature. So this is talking specifically about events in nature. It also told us that there are 3 categories. There is life science, which is the study of living things. Earth science, that would also include outer space, anything to do with planets and stars and that sort of thing, oceans, atmosphere. And then physical. Those are chemistry rules, laws of motion, gravity, that sort of thing. Gas, solid, liquid, those things are part of physical science. And the 3 groups overlap. You will get some physical science in earth science and some life science in earth science. And they're all related, but they're generally divided into 3 broad categories. And that's the definition of science. Okay, the next term that I come to in my text, and let me just remind you where I'm getting this. We just did science, now we're doing scientific method. And I can't easily flip back and forth, so I won't be doing that every time. I just wanted to remind you. But scientific method is my next term. So however you're doing this, we want to be working with scientific method. Let's break it into syllables. I have sci, long I, un, tiff, ick. And remember, this is the sound spelling, so I'm putting it, it looks funny, but it breaks the syllables. Scientific meth, it says ud, scientific method, is an organized, that is so important. Science is a very organized set of investigative procedures. And by the time we finish this lesson in its entirety, you will understand the scientific method. Whoops. Somehow I got hold of the eraser. Procedures. Procedures. This is a noun. If the definition starts with a, an, or the, as this one does right there, an, it's going to be a noun. It's a thing. The scientific method. And I have lost a whole lot here, so let me fix that. Scientific method. Okay, the next word is hypothesis. Hi, every syllable has to have a vowel, so that is the I sound. let me just put an I there because this is the sound spelling. Hypoth. This is ah. Sus. Really, that's a schwa sound, isn't it? Sus. Hypothesis is an educated guess. Or testable prediction. It is not just a stab in the dark. It's an educated guess or testable prediction. And this is a noun. It's a thing. The next word is experiment. I guess that's not dark enough, is it? So I have X. That says short E. Pair. That's an R-controlled vowel. Experiment. Experiment. 4 syllables. Experiment. And an experiment is an organized, there's that word again, organized. It's not just a stab in the dark. An organized and detailed procedure for testing a hypothesis. So once you come up with that educated guess, you have to test it. And that's done using an experiment. That is a thing. It is a noun. Control is the next thing. So we have control. So I have an ah and an o sound, 2 syllables. Control is a standard for comparison. Now this can sometimes be used as a verb. It can be an action. If you control how much money you spend, that's something you do. But in this case, it's a noun. It starts with a standard. So this is a thing. And we'll talk more about this when we look at an actual experiment. But control is a standard for comparison. It's sort of the ideal scenario, and you're comparing things to that ideal situation. Okay, the next word is a constant. So I have stunt. That's an sound in there, so let's do schwa. Constant. And this is and constant. A constant is a factor, so it's a noun. It's starting off with the word a factor that does not vary in an experiment. It doesn't change. It stays the same. It stays constant. And sometimes constant is an adjective. If it's telling what kind, like a constant rain, that would be an adjective. but in this case, it's used as a noun. Okay. And then we have independent variable. In, D, pen, dunt, there's schwa again, independent, var, e, bull. Independent variable. That's a mouthful. This is a factor that is adjusted by an experimenter or a researcher. So this is a factor that an experimenter can change. The person doing the research controls these factors, the independent variables. And this is a noun. The dependent variable, D, pen, dunt, D, pen, dunt, and there's variable again. We did that one above, so let's not do it again. We don't have to just keep writing it. You can if you want to. It is a factor. That's a thing, so that makes it a noun. A factor with a value, sorry, I almost misread that, with a value that depends on the independent variable. Now let me give you an example. I think that might be appropriate here. Let me finish the definition. So let's say that I go to the doctor and they do some blood work, that's the experiment, and they tell me that my cholesterol is too high because I've been eating too much Mexican food that I love. So the doctor, who is the experimenter, says your cholesterol is too high. And he says, I am going to give you a statin drug to lower your cholesterol. That is the independent variable because it is controlled by my doctor and ultimately by me when I take the drug. So an example here is the amount of cholesterol medicine that I take. Do I take 10 milligrams? Do I take 20 milligrams? Do I take 50 milligrams? So the doctor, who's the experimenter, controls this independent variable. The dependent variable is going to be the change in my cholesterol because that depends on the amount of medicine that the experimenter, the doctor, is giving me. So hopefully that will help you with a very practical example. Here's another example. Let's say that I buy some new plants for my deck. And I'm the experimenter, and the independent variable, the thing that I can control, is how much water I put in those plants every day. The dependent variable would be whether the plants live or die. If I give them too much water, they're going to die. If I don't give them enough water, they're going to die. If I give them exactly the right amount of water, they're going to grow. So that's the factor, the dependent factor, that depends on how much water the experimenter puts into the plants. Okay, and we're going to talk about the X and Y axes a little bit later, but let's go ahead and put that in there because this is important. The independent variable is going to be on the X axis. And again, I'm going to show you exactly what that means. The dependent variable is always going to be on the y-axis. So the thing that your experimenter controls is always going to be on the x-axis. And the x-axis runs left to right. The y-axis runs up and down. So we can go ahead and put that in there. This is x, and this is y. And again, I promise I'm going to show you how that works. Just hang on. We can't do all this in one video, but we will get to it. Okay, a couple of more vocabulary terms. We have two that are very similar. We have scientific theories and scientific law. So scientific, let's break that down. I have sci, tif, we've already done this one somewhere, ick, scientific, theory, theories, scientific theories. Scientific theories, according to our text, are explanations. Those are things, so this is a noun. It's a plural noun, it's more than one. Explanations based on experiments. And let me see if there's anything that we need to add. Yes, let's just go ahead and add a little bit more. It is a well-tested explanation. Notice the word testing. What's another word that we've learned for testing? Experiments. So it's something that's had experiments done. A well-tested explanation based on observations. Now remember, that's what I see, smell, taste, hear, and feel. Research and data. A big part of my job is to analyze data. So lots of times I have a theory about something, but I need those numbers. I need the data to back up that theory or to support that theory or to test that theory. And again, this is a plural, just means more than one noun. Theories, plural. And then we have scientific law. I'm not going to break scientific down again, and law is just one syllable. It says all, law. Scientific law is a rule of nature, like the law of gravity. that sums up summarizes the related observations observations to describe a pattern in nature. It's a step up from a theory. A theory is not much more than a hypothesis. Well, it is. A theory's been tested. And it's true when I test it. But a scientific law is a pattern that is always true. That's the key. It is always true. Every time an experiment is done, it is the same. It is always true. It never changes. It's true all the time. Okay, we have 10 new words to practice. Again, I encourage you to use flashcards and practice them every single day. And you will build a science vocabulary that will serve you well. This book is going to help you build a huge science vocabulary. In our next video, we will be looking at this more and using these words more and learning a little bit more about them each time we do a video. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.